So, if your blood sugar feels stuck in the prediabetes zone, this is how we wake your metabolism back up, GLP-1 or not. So, I'm Dr. Jenn. I practice joyful medicine. This is where evidence based lifestyle medicine meets, honors your culture, your lived experience, and your life. Always joy first and way inclusive. So, welcome. So, we're going to talk about what goes on. I particularly help women reverse prediabetes and diabetes using joyful medicine. And I'll just give you an example. Just today in one of the physician groups, a woman was talking about food noise and how, she's doing all the things. And this is one of the first things. It's like we conflate healthy lifestyle with these rigid principles. And to me, healthy lifestyle connotes a lifestyle that is joyful and nourishing and that can be sustained for the long term without feeling that you're constantly fighting your body and fighting yourself. So she was talking about how she's doing all the things. She works out, she lifts heavy, her weight and height are perfect and blah, blah, blah. The numbers are all perfect. But she fights herself at night with food noise. She's always craving, something before bed. Now, my solution is number one is that your body is always trying to reach homeostasis. So your body is telling you something. And this is one of the things we work on in the Natural GLP-1 Challenge because it's about getting in touch with your body, and that's really the key. So stay to the end, and I'll talk to you about two things that I help people do. My fiber guide, which is the first place to start, and the GLP-1 challenge, which is coming up. And we'll talk about how you can get started with those things. So what I would recommend for her, what I told her was that listening to your body. So many times when I was doing long distance running, I would do ultra runs, which are races that are longer than 26 miles. And I had also gone plant based when I first did that. And, I did find, when I was doing training, I would be craving it, but it's because I was hungry. My body was telling me what it needed. If I'm craving something sweet, maybe I need to eat more fruit. I need to eat more nourishing foods. I need to eat more carbohydrates. I need to eat, I don't talk about food in terms of macros, but really more food. Your body is craving more fuel. Your brain knows what to do. When your brain is starved, it sends signals to your body that feed me. And so this is one important thing. I think that, there are a lot of things that go into food noise. And yes, some people truly do have obsessive eating patterns. And that's something that you definitely need to work with your physician on. But most of us don't have food noise. What we have is restrictive eating patterns. We have non-nourishing foods that we consume often. And we have lives that leave us stressed, and our body is trying to cope with this stress by nourishing us. Our body copes with stress by needing nutrients. Our body thinks that if we're stressed, that we're fighting a bear. It responds in the same way. And if you're fighting a bear, you need all of that energy available right now. So of course, it's telling your brain, get more energy, get more nutrients. So, but let's let that go. So I just want to talk about, sometimes you feel, off. And some of the common things, if you are nutrient deficient, maybe you feel fatigued. This is a common concern in middle age, especially when we go through perimenopause and menopause. And as we get through this stage, we have many systems change, and all of our body, almost every organ in our body is affected by this fluctuation of estrogen. And one of those things we feel is this fatigue. Sometimes we feel puffy or bloated. Maybe we have irregular cravings out of nowhere. And often what I hear again and again and again, like from this lady, is I eat less, but I can't lose weight. Or I'm, doing all those things and I'm craving and I'm really struggling. And this happens for women. And this is why these GLP-1 medications are so popular, right? Because they are helpful in knocking out cravings. They are helpful in regulating your appetite and lowering your blood sugar and helping with these metabolism problems, variations that occur in midlife. But even if you are on GLP-1 medications, if you don't want to stay on them forever, figuring out how to regulate and work with your body instead of against it is really where the power is. And that's what I help people do every day. And so, one of the big things that we see people focus on, and what I hear when we talk about a healthy diet, is protein. Now, I will tell you, protein is solely one macronutrient. When we focus on a dietary pattern that includes fiber rich foods, but really includes food, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, and an abundance of herbs and spices for that flavor and joy. When we eat in that pattern, what happens is over time, you find that number one, you're full, right? When you eat a fiber-rich meal, that bulk fills your stomach. So that's a natural satiety cue that is immediately triggered. But also, it works on many other levels. It works on your microbiome, which is one of the things I talk to my patients, my pediatric patients about all the time when I'm talking about what to eat. I say that we have this army on our body. We're outnumbered. Human cells, microbes to human cells is about 30 to 1, right? So there's more microbes than there are human cells on our body. And those microbes control so much. And sometimes they even say they may control our personality, but they really do control how we metabolize food. They control our mood. They control just how we feel and how our body functions. And so it's really important to have those microbes on our side. So one important thing that those microbes do is they help convert fiber to short chain fatty acids, which stimulate our natural GLP-1 system. So when we have a diet that lacks fiber, which I will say most women and Americans in general do, I think it's less than half. It might be one third of women or even less than that, consume the amount of fiber that our bodies require. And that's about 25 grams, and there's no upper limit. So the minimum is 25 grams. So when we are low in fiber, that microbiome is starved and it's going to shift towards an unhealthy pattern. And that shift is going to shift us away from that natural GLP-1. So that's the change number one. So that's a big thing that fiber does for our diet. It feeds our microbiome, that diversity of fiber. So all those different colors of the rainbow, all those different foods I just mentioned, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, and herbs and spices, those foods are powerful nutrients for our microbiome. They're also powerful nutrients for us. A lot of times as women, as we go through menopause, perimenopause, our digestion changes, our absorption changes. We have this shift in our microbiome, so it really needs that boost from those healthy foods to really help balance things out. It also provides all those micronutrients and antioxidants that we also need to function. You know, when we talk about prediabetes and diabetes, one of the things is that micronutrient deficiency that we need to overcome, but also those antioxidants that help with inflammation, which is another underlying mechanism of diabetes and prediabetes, which is happening throughout our body. So to help our body function better, again, it's getting those nutrient-rich foods. So not focusing on one macronutrient, but focusing on that full palette, that full variety of different plant foods is really the key. And so adding as many of those as possible as we can every day. And looking at that variety, I always say flavor is medicine. Those herbs and spices, they really are medicine for our gut. You can add in some fermented foods to add a natural probiotic. That's the other thing I often get asked about. Well, if we need these microbes, if we need healthy microbes, why not just consume a supplement? A supplement is not going to take the place of these foods. That the other thing is with fiber supplements. You know, the fiber supplements are not going to have that full complement, that rainbow, and all of those other beneficial micronutrients that you get when you consume fiber-rich foods. So it's really important to try to get them as much as possible from foods. And the other benefit of fiber is when you're consuming fiber, what it does is it slows the release of those carbohydrates and that glucose into our blood. So it slows that glucose response. And so it naturally lowers your blood sugar and naturally supports a normal or a more normal insulin level. Without that spike, our insulin doesn't have to work so hard. So our body, pancreas doesn't have to work so hard to keep releasing insulin. So that fiber helps, again, regulate that response. So that's another mechanism. So many mechanisms that fiber is beneficial. So we're talking about nutrients, we're talking about stabilizing our blood sugar, we're talking about feeding our microbiome. And those three reasons alone are enough to just focus on fiber. If there's anything, I never talk about counting anything. Don't count calories, don't count macros, don't restrict carbs, but focus on fiber. When we focus on, again, including that rainbow of fruits and veggies, we really make support our body in so many ways. And yeah, so if you want a place to start, grab my free fiber guide. So one of the things I talk about when so say you're starting from where you are, you've been following the typical pattern of eating. I grew up eating that way too. You make your meal around meat and then the sides, the vegetables are the sides. Well, one thing is just to flip that pattern. Start planning your meal around vegetables. And this is a great time of year. I don't know, here in the Northeast, we're starting to get warmer. And that means that farmers markets and fresh vegetables are going to be more widely available. So that's one thing to think about. Start thinking about making your meals around vegetables and think about the meat or the other things as a side, because that's one thing I didn't mention is that the meat, the dairy, the cheese, those things don't have fiber in them. So while I never tell my patients or my clients to avoid any food, I always focus on the abundance and the abundance of fiber rich foods. You have to consider that those foods don't have fiber in them, so they shouldn't take the main portion of your plate. And I like to look at it as a plate. So first things first, change how you look at it. When you're looking at a meal, think about, instead of, oh, I need to make sure I get enough protein, think about, I need to add more vegetables. Where can I add more fiber to my plate? So look at it that way. Change how you look at it. And then there's this visual. They call it the full plate, the healthy plate. I call it the joyful plate. And when you look at a plate, just kind of as a way to eyeball it without having to count anything, half of what you consume should be non-starchy fruits and vegetables. And really, there's no upper limit of that. So at least half. So at least half is non-starchy fruits and vegetables, a quarter of intact whole grains and starchy vegetables. So those are your root vegetables, potatoes, things like that. Potatoes are good. And then the other quarter is beans and legumes. So tofu, tempeh, mushrooms, those all take up that quarter. And then a sprinkle of nuts. So if you sprinkled some nuts on top and seeds, nuts and seeds, and then herbs and spices. Again, those can be abundant. But that plate, that schematic that I gave you, that full plate with those split in half and then the quarters, that is what you should, when you look at your plate, think about that proportion, when you're consuming foods. So the way other tip I always tell people is, often we think about a high protein breakfast. That's another thing I see all the time. But instead, look at fiber. So when I look at my well, I just had breakfast, and my breakfast, I will give you an example, was a bowl of fruit. So I had mango and I had blackberries, and then I had a little bit of plant-based yogurt, and I added some flax seeds on top. And sometimes I'll add walnuts. And so when you look at that, that's filled with fiber. It's all the different colors. So that's one of the other things when you look at your plate, you want to see a variety of different colors on your plate. So always, if I don't see color, add something, there's no red, add a tomato, add a berry, add something. It doesn't matter. Add the color. And so I want to see that variety of colors. So I think that in the morning, the best way to start the day is starting with fiber. So when you start your day, think about, so most people start with eggs because that's high protein, but maybe with your eggs you could have some avocado, maybe you could have some berries on the side, maybe you could add some tomatoes and spinach, or beans are a great way to start the day, because again, you're getting that big amount of fiber to boost your microbiome and your metabolism to start the day. So those are the main ways that I'd like to think about how you can start your day or get started with a more fiber rich way of living. Also think about snacks. Where can you choose a fiber rich snack? So instead of that high protein bar that most people, are very popular these days, I always like fruit as a snack. I think fruit is a great snack. Maybe one of my favorite things is some berries with some nuts. So berries with some raw walnuts, that's yummy. Hummus and seed crackers, that's another favorite one of mine. And just plain fruit, like a bowl of fruit. I love having fruit as a snack. A fruit is a great fiber rich food. So wherever you can add more fiber, you're going to give your metabolism the boost. You're going to boost your natural GLP-1 system. You're going to help blunt that blood sugar response. You're going to decrease inflammation. You're going to provide all those micronutrients. There's so many benefits of focusing on fiber. One caution I will give you is that if you look at how much your fiber you're consuming now, which is a great place to start, I always tell people to just keep track. How much fiber are you consuming on a regular basis? So maybe just look for a couple of days and see how much fiber you're consuming. So if you're consuming like 10 grams of fiber a day, which is the typical 10 to 15 is what most people start with, just slowly increase it. Maybe just add some fruit to start the day. Some berries are a great high fiber source. A sprinkle of flax seeds or chia seeds, and just gradually, slowly build. Because truthfully, while there's no true harm. It might get a little constipation, but it may be uncomfortable, right? Because the key is, right, those microbes are digesting the fiber. If you haven't made that shift, if your microbiome hasn't shifted, which can take, it can happen within a couple days, it can start to shift, but really probably a month before your microbiome really makes a big, big change. But if you haven't made that shift, you will get the bloating because your body isn't ready. But the beauty of it is that your microbiome is like a muscle. It's not like an either or. Oh, I tried it, it didn't work. That's not the case. It will build over time. It's resilient. So it's like a muscle. So you just gradually continue to add that fiber and it will get better. If you find that you get bloating, just back a little bit, wait a few more days, and then start to slowly, gradually add it. Adding some fermented foods in the meantime is a great way to give that natural boost. Again, without adding the probiotics, but give that natural boost. So fermented foods like, yogurt, kefir, um, tempeh, miso, kimchi, sauerkraut, all of these natural forms of probiotic foods, probiotic-rich foods, those are a great way to give that natural boost in the meantime to kind of push the balance the positive way. So going slow on the fiber is key. And what else can I say? So these are the things that my fiber guide actually helps. It has a list of how much fiber is in the most common foods, and it also gives you an idea of some meals that you can start building and some tips in there. So if you want my fiber guide, it will be in the description. So just click below and you can get it. And the thing that's most important is, excuse me, recognizing that we are resilient and it's always progress over perfection. I think that a lot of the all or nothing thinking and that reductionist way of thinking gets us stuck in this pattern of, either it's going to work or it just doesn't work and I need to give up. And I always say that I say joy first, right? So it's always looking where you can make the change easier, make it have less friction. There's always going to be some challenge, but if you recognize that the challenge is an opportunity for learning as opposed to looking for the perfect way to do everything. Life is never about perfection. I feel like it's always a journey and it's always about learning, and so being open into that process is really the key to success. And lifestyle change takes time, but it is well worth it, because when you look at all of the studies about reversing prediabetes, reversing diabetes, when you make a lifestyle change, the lifestyle change that I'm talking about, a joyful, joy first change and focused on progress over perfection, these changes are sustainable and they yield lifelong results. When the big Lancet study, which I've talked about in my previous videos, where they looked at the two large diabetes prevention projects, they saw that the lifestyle change focused on reversal of insulin resistance and reversal with diabetes, that those lifestyle changes lasted and they resulted in better health overall. So the most recent paper from that study demonstrated lower cardiovascular risk, which is one of the big risk factors with prediabetes and diabetes. So that's an important thing. It improves your brain health, it improves your mood, it improves, really everything. So that lifestyle change, while you may be doing it for prediabetes or maybe to support a healthy weight or support mood or heart health, it's going to have an effect on your whole body and how you feel. And so that's really my message. So if you are on or thinking about a GLP-1, or you have prediabetes and you're struggling with trying to figure out how to manage it, or you feel stuck, I encourage you to join me in my next GLP-1 challenge. It's coming up. It's Enhance Your Natural GLP-1 System. So we go over things like this, but in detail. We meet every day for 5 days. It includes recipes, but also other tools that you need to be successful and support the journey, the education behind the GLP-1 system and what's going on in your body and how to actually support the system naturally. And the support and the community to go along with it. So it's a 5-day challenge. It's live every day. We meet for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on questions. And again, it includes community support, It's all done within my Joyful Medicine Collective. And it is, just everything you need to really get on the right foot. And if you take these principles and you apply them, you will have results. So thank you for joining me. Uh, I hope that you are, you know, that you've heard something here today that you can take away, and that maybe you'll join me in the challenge. If not, at least grab my free fiber guide so you can get started on implementing this right away, because this really is the key to really your overall health. If you focus on fiber, so many things will fall into place. So thanks again. Feel free to post your questions below. If you are struggling with any of these things I mentioned before, you know, let me know your worries. I will be happy to address them in the comments. So I will see you next week here every Friday morning at 9 a.m. And if you have any ideas for new topics to discuss, let me know. I'm happy to cover it.